to recognize this program that was utilized during a very, very difficult time with COVID hitting, and for those businesses that fell through the cracks of the traditional federal programs, the federal programs that were established to help small business. And the city reached out to the WBDC and asked if we could lend a hand with filling the gap of those businesses that fell through the cracks because they desperately needed, and the city felt bad, that they couldn't fund any more of the applicants and wanted to get to a goal of funding all of the applicants and meeting all of the needs. So the only way to do that was to come up with some flexible dollars to be donated in addition to all the other dollars that the business community and residents of the city have donated to various programs to help with assistance during COVID. So we pulled together a committee in the direction of the city manager and Chief Development Officer Peter Dunn and the mayor and district councilor. We pulled together a small working group. There was not enough time because everyone needed this money, and we quickly figured out what we needed to do, and I'm so pleased we reached out to our friends, and if you're going to ask for money, you got to put some money up. So the WBDC led and put a nice chunk of money up to start, and then we turned to our partners in the banking community to help build upon that so that we could reach the goal of funding 100% of the applicants of small business. So we're here today to present one of those checks to the city from Fidelity Bank. But before we get to that, I'd like to turn it over to our esteemed mayor, Joe Petty, to say a few words.
Thanks, Craig, and thanks for taking the lead on this. Much appreciated. As you know, small businesses, especially the restaurants, took a real hit over COVID. And we were pretty good. City manager, working with the city manager, Charles, head of economic development. Peter Dunn's been wonderful. Really trying to help the small business on anywhere we can. Even the grants we gave earlier during the year, the $5,000 grants we gave was very helpful to a lot of businesses who didn't qualify otherwise. But this was pretty cool. You get 31 grant fees here and $62,000 worth of grants. And Chris, I want to thank Fidelity Bank, and much appreciated. Job well done. I know you've been part of this community, so it means a lot to the business owners, Café, Reyes, all the other businesses in the city. Because we're still not through this yet. And the restaurants are still hurting, and whether it be help, whether it be just opening up and people being comfortable coming out, those are little cycles right now, but I do appreciate everything you do for the city of Worcester. This was very important, so you have to people of Worcester, thank you.
And the minute she heard about the program, my phone rang. My partner in crime, District City Councilor Andy Merrill-Carlson, called and said, we have companies, we have businesses and restaurants, particularly where we sit right here, that need this help. So please be sure, don't forget this district. It's extremely important. She is a strong advocate for economic development, but really, really a strong advocate for Shrewsbury Street and this whole district. She does an incredible job. District Councilor Andy Merrill-Carlson.
Thank you, Craig. And I have the great opportunity to live right around the corner from here on the other side of the track. So the food looks fabulous. By the way, I think you're teasing everybody that they should hurry up and speak, but really want to say to Craig, and as he said, my partner in crime, and we've worked really well together over the last several years, along with the mayor and the city manager. And these grants like this, because of Fidelity Bank and Unibank and WBDC, and also we have the great fortune to have our friend over here, Peter Dunn, who does yeoman's work on behalf of the businesses here in the city. So I think that this is great. Outside dining, it was a huge hit, right? It took the pandemic for us to get to outside dining, but these grants were the life and blood, as you all know, for the small businesses to survive. So I'm really grateful to be here today and grateful to Fidelity and Unibank and WBDC. So thank you.
And we couldn't do any of this without the leadership and direction of our great city manager at Augustus, who brought this issue up early on and our Economic Development Coordinating Council to say, look, everybody, we're going to roll up our sleeves and try to help. This is going to be difficult. I'm seeing it and feeling the pain of these small businesses and everyone to get through this pandemic. So we've got to figure out creative ways to do this. So anything you can do to help, I would really appreciate it. And so we were able to pull this together under his direction, and we follow his direction very closely. Our city manager at Augustus.
Thank you, Craig. Before I speak about what we were here to speak about, I just want to say how I noticed how quickly the mayor was able to jump into the breach here. And this is a former employee of Bob's Big Boys in West Virginia. When we were growing up together at Bob's Big Boys. And you see how quickly he knew how to handle that play. So I am impressed. I hope you were equally impressed with that. I'm just going to echo what was said before, but you know, the great thing about Worcester is I call us a Goldilocks community. We're not so big that we can't get together when we need to get together. We're not so small that we don't have organizations like the WBDC and, you know, banking and business partners like Fidelity and Unibank, and a city government and entities that can quickly kind of rally when there's a need. And that's exactly what happened as we responded to the pandemic in a whole host of ways. And we tried to keep our economic engines, which are our small businesses, alive, kind of get them through some of the trickiest periods during the COVID pandemic. And outside dining was one of the strategies to keep people healthy and keep these small businesses going. But it did have, as Councilor Carlson said, a great byproduct of they're here to stay. These are not going to go away. God willing, COVID's going to go away at some point, but outdoor dining is not going to go away. It's going to be part of the culture and part of the experience that we have here in Worcester. And I think most of us had no idea that there was this really kind of cozy spot behind Café Reyes. So I think a lot of us are going to come back and want to sit outside and enjoy this space. And I think that's happened with a lot of restaurants. They're going to get people to come back and enjoy that kind of atmosphere being outside. So Craig is always there. WBDC is just such an indispensable partner when it comes to, you know, reinvigorating our economy here in Worcester in so many ways. And Craig always says yes when we call, and I appreciate that. And Fidelity is just a great partner there. Any project that's going on in Worcester where we're asking everybody to rally, Fidelity's first in. We appreciate that. We appreciate your presence and your civic mindedness as a bank. And obviously the councilor and the mayor and the whole city council always urging us to do more for our small businesses. Don't forget our small businesses. So this is an example where all the stars aligned, everybody worked together. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Peter Dunn and Vasquez from our Economic Development office. You know, there's maybe, I don't know, how many people work in there? Maybe 60 people between. Yeah. They punch way above their weight. If you think about all of the different things that we had to do to support our businesses and the everyday work. So they're a really talented group of folks who do great work, and I want to thank them for what they did to make this project come to fruition. So thank you.
So when we heard of the need, the first call, I have to admit, Chris, was to Sherry. So I called Sherry. Yeah, and Sherry said, you need to call Chris, and we will definitely help in some way. So there never was, we'd consider this, maybe, we need to know more about it. It was, we'll jump right in and help, whatever we need to do. So, and again, we said, we've got a lead. If we're going to ask, we're going to put in money. But really, it would only work if others stepped up and contributed. So I'm so pleased that Chris serves on my board and also stepped into a very critical role that people don't even probably realize publicly. But we had to refinance the 20 Franklin Street complicated project downtown. And it was a whole collapse of a lot of tax credit structure that was really, really complicated and difficult to do. And most banks said, thank you for offering, but we're really not interested in sort of going down that path right now. Fidelity, once again, stepped up in a big way. So Ed Manzi and Chris McCarthy, thank you so much, Jerry, for being a big supporter of the WBDC, and in turn, they get the banking relationship in our commercial banking, because that's the way it works, and we get the opportunity to call back and say, can you get back into the community? And they always do, and they step up in a big way. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris to say a few words, and then present the check to Aaron on behalf of the businesses. So.
Great, thanks, Craig. And a big part of Fidelity Bank's life design banking approach is really supporting our local businesses and helping them to thrive. And certainly when this need came up, we knew as a bank we wanted to step forward and provide that support. It took almost no time for us to say yes, as you said. You called and said how much and when do you need it, and we were happy to step in.
And then yes again.
And then yes again. We said yes twice. Craig is persuasive, as you know, so, and persistent, but we're very pleased to help, and it's great just to see how we can help local businesses thrive in the community, and really that's about what Fidelity Bank is helping the community, and that's a big part of our mission. So we're happy to be there when you needed us, and we'll be happy to present you with the check this afternoon, so thank you very much. All right.
We want to have a couple of representatives of Café Reyes come down and present the check.
Get the train in the background?
That's right.
That's Worcester.
Yep, great.
City manager, smile.
That'd be great.
That's your favorite thing. So.
I support a state without stigma.
I know addiction is a treatable illness.
I look beyond the addiction. I see the person.
I know medication can help people in recovery.
I know that words matter when talking about addiction.
When we stop the stigma, we support recovery. Learn how you can be part of a state without stigma.
I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and I'm so grateful. Substance Use Helpline actually takes some of the stress away from a person that's trying to seek treatment or get treatment for someone else. Recovery is always possible, but you have to keep your hope alive, and you have to believe.
We've all got one somewhere, scribbled on the back of an envelope, shouted from the kitchen, a note to self. But your list is also an invitation, a plan, a promise. Each one is a snapshot of what and who we care about. So next time you're at Stop and Shop, take a second look at what you've written, and you'll see it's more than just a list. Stop and Shop. Feed the moment.
For Worcester Daily News, Tiffany Williams here at Café Reyes on Shrewsbury Street, where they just had Fidelity Bank present a check for their outside dining patio. If you've never been here, you definitely have to come here. Really great atmosphere here. But joining me now, wonderful District 2 City Councilor Candy Morrow-Carlson. More economic development stuff in your district.
More, absolutely. And every day, you know what, I'm so proud of all that happens in District 2. I call us the economic engine for the city of Worcester. And to be here today to see one of our small businesses get a grant is really what Worcester's all about, right? Making sure that they have what they need to continue. As we know, the pandemic has hit these restaurant owners pretty hard, and it's really special for a place like this because of what they do and who they serve and who they are. So I'm so grateful to the WBDC, Unibank, and Fidelity.
You do a lot of work when it comes to this district as far as not just economic development, but helping out nonprofits and stuff. And Hector Reyes House and Cafe Reyes organization like this and what they do. Can you just talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as I call it, I spent my life in the social service industry up until, the last 15 years. I went to work for a health insurance company. But for me, it is all about the nonprofits because they're who makes this city thrive, right? From Café Reyes to a place like the United Way, the YW, Worcester Community Action Council, you look at Friendly House, that's all about families and it's all about neighborhoods. And as you know, for me, and when I made a decision to run, it was about families and neighborhoods and, parks. I mean, people don't think the parks are a big deal, but if you look back 6 years ago, I look at Grant Square wasn't, there. We did nothing in the Lincoln Street area, nothing in the Belmont Street area, nothing, as I call it, on the east side. So those are big deals because our families don't go to Hampton Beach or go to the Cape or, go to Rhode Island. Our parks is what makes this city really special. And, we have a great city manager and we've spent in the vicinity of close to $80 million in 6 years. So we're getting there.
How important is it to support black and brown businesses, especially in this?
So it's a huge thing for me because as I talked to Peter during the time when we first wrote the grants, we needed to make sure that we were hitting the black and brown communities because they were hit the hardest in many cases. So we made sure that when we were giving out grants that those folks were getting those grants. So, again, proud to say that as a District 2 City Councilor, that was something that we thought was extremely important and made it happen. Like today, right? This is what it's all about. And I tell every developer who comes in, it's about our people who live in the city of Worcester. So as long as they're getting jobs, as long as they're getting the piece of the pie, then I'm happy.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Having to think, where am I going to get my next fix or where am I going to get money to get my next fix? That was normal for 32 years. Finally made me say enough. Today I take care of myself first. And if I can't take care of myself first, I can't take care of the next person. Without hope, there wouldn't be Mari.
We've all got one somewhere, scribbled on the back of an envelope, shouted from the kitchen, a note to self. But your list is also an invitation, a plan, a promise. Each one is a snapshot of what and who we care about. So next time you're at Stop and Shop, take a second look at what you've written, and you'll see it's more than just a list. Stop and Shop. Feed the moment.
All right, welcome back. We're here with at Cafe Reyes in Worcester on Shrewsbury Street. Joining me now, Worcester City Manager Ed Augustus. Mr. City Manager, programs like Cafe Reyes and the Hector Reyes House are vitally important to our city. Presenting a check today, how does that feel for you?
Well, it's great because it allows the mission that Cafe Reyes serves to make sure that folks who are in recovery and need to get job skills and get practical hands-on experience and to get a paycheck can continue to do that because they stay, viable even during the period of COVID where because of, restrictions to the size of the restaurant itself can really expand its footprint and have more people enjoy the great food here and the great atmosphere, albeit outside, and be a little bit safer and expand the capacity of the restaurant.
My black and brown businesses, let's talk about that real quick. Right now, during COVID, a lot of black and brown businesses are suffering, not just in Worcester, nationwide. How important has it been for your administration to work with black and brown businesses?
It really is critically important. This series of grants, 52% of the grants went to black and brown businesses. So more than half of the grants that we gave went to people of color owned businesses here in the city of Worcester. And so we know that's really important to keep those businesses, which are often very small, maybe a handful of people. A lot of times it's a family that are all kind of pitching in, working to keep the business going. And $2,000 can be a big help because if you think about it, if it adds 8 or 9 tables, and you think about how many tables during the course of an evening dinner period, that those extra 8 or 9 tables can provide income, that can really be a big margin, whether you're going to actually make some money that week or you're not going to quite cover your expenses and your costs. So I think especially for the smaller businesses, the impact can be that much more profound.
I want to sidetrack for a second. Houston is in town tonight in Boston. Who do you have, Houston or Red Sox?
That's an easy one. Go Sox. Go Sox.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I couldn't imagine what life would be like if I wasn't clean right now. And I would not want to imagine life without the connection that my son and I have. Tools like the helpline are so fundamental. There's help here, there's hope here. You can do this. Anybody can do this.
Substance Use Helpline, Kathy speaking. May I help you?
We've all got one somewhere, scribbled on the back of an envelope, shouted from the kitchen, a note to self. But your list is also an invitation, a plan, a promise. Each one is a snapshot of what and who we care about. So next time you're at Stop and Shop, take a second look at what you've written, and you'll see it's more than just a list. Stop and Shop. Feed the moment.
All right, welcome back to Café Reyes here on Shrewsbury Street in Worcester. Again, if you have not been here to Café Reyes, you're not just supporting any other business, you're supporting an organization, a nonprofit organization that helps people with addiction issues in our city, but also trains those people with addiction issues. And joining me now, the executive director, Dr. Erin Mendel, who is the executive director of the program. First of all, let's go back. Let's rewind for a second. How did Hector Reyes House start?
In 2004, there was about 9 deaths in Worcester, and there was a grassroots organization came up to look for the underlying cause of that. It was the city manager and the congressman and church leaders, and the underlying cause was found to be substance use. 5 years later, we were able to open Hector Reyes House. We created the Latin American Health Alliance as the group to spearhead the event, the organization. And in 2009, we opened Hector Reyes House, a 25-bed substance use treatment center for Latino men. There were no treatment centers in central Massachusetts for Latino men at the time. And since that time, we've both maintained the treatment center. We've opened 2 recovery houses next door. And in 2015, we opened Café Reyes. And the idea was for a lot of our residents, they had history of trauma, history of incarceration, and they didn't have the job skills. They didn't have the soft skill needed to continue to work. And so this offered them a safe place to develop those skills, a place where they could interact with the larger community and get both the skills as well as the self-assurance and well-being that they need to continue working. And we've been open ever since. Obviously, the pandemic was dreadful for us because our staff was also our former residents. They were also our friends, and so the idea of having to cut back would have been devastating.
How important today? I mean, the expansion of the outside patio, outside dining, which has been a huge thing since the beginning of the pandemic. Fidelity Bank, they're presenting you a check today. How huge is that?
It's incredibly important. I think we had a couple tables outside before, but it didn't have the look that you want to attract business. And our goal is to expand our business here to allow us to continue to train individuals, and by allowing us to get new furniture, to landscape it, to make it an appealing site. It's a lovely place now, and since we couldn't have all the seating inside, having those outdoor seats over the summer was incredibly important and really kept us going.
All right, so I see so many photos around here, not just in this part, in the living room part, but also in the dining room area as well. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these photos? Because I know earlier you were giving somebody a history lesson or a lesson on some of these photos.
Sure. This cafe was started as a Cuban cafe because my wife's from Cuba, and it was her goal way back when to own a cafe someday. So that's why, even though most of the staff aren't Cuban, it's why it's a Cuban cafe. So on the wall we see some art that was created by residents of the Hector Reyes house. There's a kite on the wall. There's a sculpture that was by the residents. The mural on the other side of the hall was done by one of our residents. But there's also newspaper clippings of the recovery people, and my wife's immigration papers to the United States in 1962, and some pictures that are just enigmatic of, Cuban society. Because a lot of the staff are from Puerto Rico, we have a small Puerto Rican section for art that they brought in. Some of it was donated by people who came back from Cuba. Some of it is local artists, and I like the image. I like the image of it changing, and we've had a couple of art exhibits here, and the idea that it's not a static place, that the history is alive on the walls, and it's a way to follow our history along.
And for those who don't know, your wife is Dr. Maddie Castell, who does so much work in Worcester and created this program, and has been on the front lines of the COVID pandemic as well. You know her better than I do. Does she ever stop?
She never stops in any way, shape, or form. No, my great fear is if I ever retire, I just have to be doing everything possible at home, because she'd never be there, and I'd have to do all the chores. So I'm working forever just so we get to spend a little time together on weekends. But she's always working, and she's always making incredible change in the world.
She's a great person, and for anybody to start a program like this, you're definitely a great person with a kind heart. Where do you guys go from here? How do you guys grow, or what do people do after this program?
With respect to the residents, or our job is to get them the comfort level with the working world, that they will be able to work here part of the time and eventually work out other places. We've had people that have gone from here to driving jobs, to mechanics jobs, to other restaurants. And we also want there to be continued wraparound services for people who suffer from substance use. It's not a one and done game. You can't just go through a few months of treatment and consider yourself complete. So we want to have wraparound services for them. Anniversary events, we do graduations for our residents, and we ask former residents to come back and get a pin at 1 year and 2 year and 5 years. So they get a certain community of people who have gone through it. A lot of the residents do like to come back and socialize, and also give their stories to our current residents. Like I said, it's an ongoing battle, so you want to keep everyone moving forward, I guess.
Hector Reyes house, again, Café Reyes. If you've never been here, you should definitely stop by. Shrewsbury Street, what number Shrewsbury Street is?
421.
421 Shrewsbury Street. I actually grew up at 121 Shrewsbury Street. 21 years I lived here, so it's a really great neighborhood, and it's really great to see that there's something like this in this neighborhood. This is like a second chance program. How important is it in our society, especially today, for people to have second chances?
I think we've treated substance use terribly in this country forever. We've treated it with incarceration, with shame, with calling it sin. And it's a disease like any other, and that disease needs lifetime treatment. So I think, like I said, it's not a one and done. It's not one chance that people will get. It's saying that we understand that there will be issues and there will be problems, but we'll continue to work with people. And just as any other disease, whether it's, I don't know, diabetes or anything else, you don't get over the disease, you continue to manage it, and you don't manage it perfectly, but you continue to work with it. And it should be treated like any other disease, which means you get medical care, you get social psychiatric care, you get social supports. And I think a program like this allows people to become a full part of society, and they've been marginalized for so long, and they've been treated terribly for so long, that to have them come here, work, show pride in their work, mingle with everyone. One of the things I really like about the cafe is you don't know when you walk in who's who. Whether the med school's around the corner, there's social work people, there's people in recovery, there's local business people all mingling together, and it's nice that it's not segregated. You don't have a their side and our side, which is the way society should be.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I believe that anybody can turn their life around. They just gotta wanna, and they gotta have some belief.
We've all got one somewhere, scribbled on the back of an envelope, shouted from the kitchen, a note to self. But your list is also an invitation, a plan, a promise. Each one is a snapshot of what and who we care about. So next time you're at Stop and Shop, take a second look at what you've written, and you'll see it's more than just a list. Stop and Shop. Feed the moment.
All right, welcome back to Café Reyes. I'm Tiffany Williams. This food was amazing today. You get some, I believe it's empanadas? Empanadas.
Right.
And is there a sandwich I see there too, like a panini?
Sandwich cubano. Cuban sandwich.
Cuban sandwich?
Yeah, yeah.
And some fried plantains?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, plátanos.
Plátanos. So, joining me now is Hector Quinones. I got it right. Let me see if I can test my Spanish. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. Gracias. Gracias, Tiffany. Muy bien.
So, how important was today to Hector Reyes' house and Café Reyes?
Extremely important. I think the support from the community to us and businesses like us was so generous of the city. I really enjoyed the way that they didn't make people, struggle for the money. It was just a very generous gift, and it came very handy, and it allowed us to get some chairs for the outside and expand the dining options for the folks. And I think it was a great show of support for the mayor, the city manager, the folks from Fidelity Investments to be here. So, yeah.
So, for those who don't know you, you're a man with plenty of experience in Worcester, from AIDS Project Worcester to AdCare, Open Skies, New England Dream Center, and also a former pastor, a retired pastor here in the city. So when you look around the city and you look at the addiction issue that we have in Worcester, what are we doing what are we not doing that we should be doing?
I think at this point, part of what we are learning to do is to be more compassionate. It is a disease, and it takes time. I've come a long way in the world of treatment as a clinician, even working with models like harm reduction, which, when harm reduction first came to being implemented, especially out here in New England, there was a resistance to it. And it basically says, listen, the condition didn't appear overnight. And so the solution and the journey is not going to happen overnight. Harm reduction says, let's meet you where you are. And so as we provide support and clinical support and medical support to those afflicted by the disease of addiction and their families, we also say, you know what, let's take our time. Let's meet them where they're at. Let's call progress progress. And it doesn't have to be measured by our personal standards. It has to be measured by the standards of each individual, and knowing that when they do their best, that is the best they can do. And so we continue to support them that way. So it's come a long way. Yeah, it's come a long way. Yeah.
What is the next step for people after, clients or consumers, I like to say, when they finish Hector Reyes' house and they finish here at Cafe Reyes?
Well, in independent living, I think, what we hope for all of our residents is to become productive, continue on the path of job training, education, vocational pursuits, and more importantly, stay healthy and help other people. We have a lot of folks who have been residents before who are now part of staff and their supportive staff, caseworkers, and we grow together. So our goal is to expand not only the organization, the Latin American Health Alliance, but also help each individual expand and to really pursue their best. There's so much discovery in the life of sobriety for a lot of folks. They don't realize what they can do. There's so many skills that went dormant in the middle of active addiction, and so as they begin to gain sobriety and we help them build their dignity, they begin to tap back into those natural skills and gifts that they have, and it's wonderful to see them grow and expand. Yeah.
I always talk about black and brown businesses in Worcester, but this isn't just a black and brown business, it's a nonprofit business. So when people come here, they're not just supporting any business, they're supporting what?
When people come here, they are supporting an epidemic that touches the lives and the hearts of everybody. Worcester is so strong in its diversity, and the disease of addiction is so non-discriminatory. And so we all know somebody who is struggling or has in the past. And as a nonprofit that focuses on Latino men for now and hoping to expand into Latino women, the family members that are touched by our services actually become very diverse. Just because we're servicing a Latino man, it doesn't mean that at home there isn't a wife, a mother, a family member who may be culturally different. And so, when you support the Latin American Health Alliance and Reyes House and the Reyes Café, you really are supporting the whole community of Worcester.
Awesome. I want to thank you again.
Absolutely.
Once you're a pastor, you're always a pastor, so pastor. I don't know if you can retire, but...
I told myself that.
So I see this great food here. I'm going to try an empanada.
Please do.
What is your favorite dish here?
In this restaurant, my favorite dish, personally, is ropa vieja, which is a very classic Cuban dish, which is basically rice with shredded beef. It is seasoned wonderfully. They do an awesome job here, and they are also now serving seafood with salmon and swordfish. And so it's really it's a dangerous little place to come to. But remember, everything that you do for a nonprofit has no calories. They do a great job, ropa vieja. But by all means, take some whether you try it. They do an awesome job.
For our Spanish viewers, what is the message that you have for them
in Spanish? El mensaje para nosotros es un mensaje de compasión, un mensaje que dice, vamos a encontrar a la persona donde se encuentre en ese momento. Vamos a no juzgar, vamos a tener en mente que cuando tratamos a una persona que está sufriendo de la enfermedad de adicción, estamos tratando a la familia y últimamente a la comunidad también. Así que le damos la mano a una persona y en haciendo eso ayudamos a muchos.
Now, that was amazing because I don't even know what you said, but I'm going to leave that that was amazing. So I have a friend. He's a police officer in Boston. His name is Javier Pagan, and he's probably going to be watching.
Okay.
So and he's a foodie. He loves to cook. He's always going to Puerto Rico and eating different dishes and showcasing different stuff on his Instagram. What can you say to him in Spanish?
Javier, pasa por Café Reyes, come comida cubana auténtica y dile a tus amistades que pasen por aquí. Siempre estamos abiertos para desayuno, almuerzo y ya pronto para la cena.
I don't know what you said, but Javier, you need to come here to Café Reyes.
And stay safe, Javier. Stay safe. My dad was a cop. Stay safe.
These empanadas, they're really, really great.
There you go.
I'm going to make sure John, who's behind the camera, gets some as well.
Please, never forget the camera person.
Yes. Thank you very much, and thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Opioid addiction is a healthcare issue that knows no boundaries across age, race.
No one forced them to stick a needle in their arm. Actually, heroin addiction is a chronic disease. It's not a choice.
I was addicted to prescription painkillers. Now, I'm in long-term recovery.
The disease may make people do bad things, but it doesn't mean they're bad people.
Rethinking attitudes and actions toward people with addictions could help in their recovery. Show you care at #StateWithoutStigma.
Abre tu sala y expándela para que empieces a volar, porque vas a encontrar la esperanza que yo encontré. Se puede y hay esperanza.
We've all got one somewhere, scribbled on the back of an envelope, shouted from the kitchen, a note to self. But your list is also an invitation, a plan, a promise. Each one is a snapshot of what and who we care about. So next time you're at Stop and Shop, take a second look at what you've written, and you'll see it's more than just a list. Stop and Shop. Feed the moment.